The first Prime Minister's questions of 2025 turned into a dramatic battleground as Kemi Badenoch launched a direct attack on Keir Starmer over the contentious issue of child sexual abuse by grooming gangs. The question dominating the session: should there be a new national inquiry into how these crimes were allowed to happen? Badenoch wasted no time, standing with calm determination to deliver her question. Given the calls from victims and the public, she began, does the leader of the opposition support a new public inquiry into grooming gangs? Or will he continue to dodge accountability for Labour's role in this national scandal? The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Starmer, who rose slowly, visibly composed, but clearly bracing for impact. And trust me, folks, you need to see this.
Minister.
Can I first thank her for her condolences, and can I thank her for reaching out over the Christmas period when I lost my brother? I really did appreciate that, and I appreciate it today. Mr. Speaker, on the question of a further inquiry, there have been a number of inquiries, some of them localised, including the Mayor of Manchester's inquiry recently, and of course a national inquiry Professor Jay carried out, took 7 years, had 20 recommendations, none of which actually were implemented by the party opposite when they were in government. Now, this is a really serious issue. We must focus, obviously, on the victims and survivors. There's no fixed view on the victims and survivors about a further national inquiry. There are mixed views. But there is a view, and I share this view, that what is needed now is action on what we already know. We already know, myself from personal knowledge when I was Chief Prosecutor, that warped ideas, myths and stereotypes about victims were at the heart of this. We've known that for a decade. The Jay report called for mandatory reporting. I called for it 11 years ago. What we need now is action. What can't be tolerated is the idea that this afternoon members opposite will vote down a bill which protects children, include Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, let me just. One of the provisions in the bill is to protect children vulnerable today who are out of school, to prevent abusers ever taking those children out of school. I implore members opposite to defy the misleading leadership of the Leader of the Opposition and vote for a really important bill.
Mr. Speaker, I'm shocked that the Prime Minister would say that actions were not taken. He knows full well that we accepted 18. He knows full well that we accepted 18 of the 20 recommendations in the Jay inquiry and went further, launching a gangs task force that found 550 more perpetrators. That shows that there is still work to be done.
Badenoch pushes Starmer on further grooming gangs inquiry. The clip shows Badenoch's sharp delivery, while Starmer counters with frustration. Let me remind the honourable member, he began, as Director of Public Prosecutions, I led unprecedented efforts to prosecute grooming gangs. This government's refusal to act on the Jay inquiry's recommendations is the real betrayal of victims. We don't need another inquiry. We need action. Badenoch, however, wasn't letting go. If you truly cared about justice, Mr. Starmer, why are you resisting transparency? What are you afraid a new inquiry will uncover? The clip ended, but the ripples of the exchange spread far beyond the chamber. Outside Parliament, the fallout was immediate. Social media erupted, with fiery reactions from both sides. Among the most prominent voices was Elon Musk, who had already waded into the debate earlier that week. Now, Musk posted a string of provocative comments on X, formerly Twitter. Why is Labour afraid of transparency? He asked, tagging both Badenoch and Starmer. Justice delayed is justice denied. Musk's tweets quickly went viral, reigniting public outrage and forcing both political parties to respond. Some praised Musk for drawing attention to the issue, while others accused him of meddling in British politics. A senior government minister reportedly called Musk unhinged, but even they couldn't ignore the influence he was wielding over the conversation. Inside Downing Street, the Prime Minister faced mounting pressure. His public position had been cautious. While he acknowledged that it was reasonable for some to call for a new inquiry, he argued that such a move could delay reforms based on the Jay report's findings. But his reasoning quickly came under scrutiny. When asked to specify which reforms might be delayed by a new inquiry, the Prime Minister's spokesperson stumbled, providing vague answers that only deepened public scepticism. This ambiguity led to speculation that the government might be considering a U-turn. Behind closed doors, whispers began circulating that number. 10 wasn't ruling out a change in position. "We're keeping the door open," a senior aide admitted. The Conservatives seized the moment. Badenoch's allies launched an online petition calling for a new inquiry, framing it as a moral imperative. "The victims deserve justice," the petition read, "and the public deserves the truth." Within hours, the petition gained tens of thousands of signatures, amplifying the issue and putting Labour further on the defensive. Labour, however, wasn't backing down. Starmer's allies rallied to defend his record, pointing to his leadership of the Crown Prosecution Service as proof of his commitment to justice. This government has spent years failing to act on the recommendations of the J inquiry, one senior Labour MP declared in a televised interview. Now they're using this issue as a political football to distract from their own inaction. Despite their efforts, cracks began to show in Labour's position. Critics dredged up past cases that were mishandled during Starmer's tenure, reigniting public debate over his judgment and priorities. The Conservatives capitalised on this, portraying Starmer as part of the establishment that had failed victims for decades. And Musk wasn't done. His next post on X went viral almost instantly. "The victims deserve better than excuses. It's time for accountability." The post racked up millions of likes and retweets, cementing Musk's role as a disruptive force in the debate. His interventions forced Labour to address questions they might have preferred to avoid and kept the issue squarely in the spotlight. Meanwhile, another contentious issue emerged to dominate headlines: illegal migration. Foreign Secretary David Lammy announced new measures to target people's smuggling networks, aiming to cut off their financial lifelines. "We will freeze their assets, impose travel bans, and dismantle their networks," Lammy said in a fiery press conference. "This is about hitting them where it hurts." The measures, described as a world first, aim to combat the surge in small boat crossings over the Channel. Supporters hailed the crackdown as a decisive step forward, while critics questioned whether financial sanctions alone could solve the problem. Labour accused the Conservatives of using the migration issue to distract from their failures on grooming gangs. For both parties, the convergence of these debates, grooming gangs and illegal migration, created a minefield of political challenges. Labour struggled to defend their record while fending off accusations of inaction. The Conservatives, meanwhile, sought to maintain public pressure on Labour while defending their own handling of both issues. By the day's end, the fallout from PMQs had plunged Westminster into turmoil. For Starmer, the stakes couldn't have been higher. He needed to convince the public that resisting a new inquiry wasn't about protecting his reputation, but about focusing on real solutions. For Badenoch and the Conservatives, the opportunity was clear: keep the focus on Labour's perceived failures and frame the debate as a question of justice. As the dust settled, one thing was certain. This wasn't just about policy. It was about power, perception, and the future of political leadership in Britain. With Musk continuing to stir the pot and public anger showing no signs of abating, the story was far from over.